Somebody who writes you lists that you tear up into tiny pieces and chuck in the recycling?
Do you know what? I live alone and I'm completely autonomous. I don't need any lists and I don't need any woman, however well-meaning, to provide them for me.
Is that because it's only you, so you've only got yourself to look after?
Yeah.
And the reality is that as things grow and there's more and more responsibilities, that actually there's more things we need reminding of?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm juggling lots of different tasks all the time and I've obviously got a big family and I, have lots of different responsibilities. And amazingly, I manage them all just quite fine, thank you very much. So it's all good.
Anna May Mangan, are you more like Kate in the leaving of the list in the morning?
I call myself the chairman of the ironing board. I run the show. I mean, what's wrong with that? My husband doesn't want to. I mean, he doesn't mind doing anything as long as he doesn't have to think about it. So I leave him the list and he cracks on with it. I mean, I must admit, when he does stuff, I mean, there's virtually an award ceremony that has to take place.
Right.
Put him on the podium, play the national anthem, he's hoovered. Yeah,
but does he do it just off his own back, or does he do it because you've written on the list
he claims
that
he can't remember things. He claims that even though the same chores, I mean, there's not a new household chore every day, it's a dish, it's the same old routine. He can't remember it. But if I said to him, hey, it's a football match tonight, and then we're going to have takeaway curry, and then we're going to have an early night, he'd remember that, no trouble whatsoever. But if I said to him,
having an early night to doing the bins?
Well, it's kind of foreplay, isn't it, really?
I mean, it's an interesting point. Now, I mean, there's slightly different propositions. I'd like to think they certainly are in our household. A chance to be a fine thing. But Peter, there is
sort of drifted off a little bit.
Too much information.
But I think the interesting thing is that what Anna has worked out, and as Kate clearly has in their house, there is a system that works. And actually, if that system works, without that system, suddenly everything slowly unpicks and falls apart.
Yeah, I suppose your point, Peter, might be that actually there are other systems that work.
Absolutely, and what I would always say, there is actually a technical term for this phenomenon, and not a lot of people know it, and it's actually called womansplaining.
Oh. Well, you see, could that be the point, Anna? Because as a fellow list writer and control freak, is it because of a slight feeling that if it's not done my way, I think it's going to fall apart? Like, I think Billy's going to be upset, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or the children are going to... Whereas actually, what Derek might say is, do you know what? If I don't forget to do that, they'll be fine, and they'll cope with it, and it's OK.
Men say that to dump the jobs on the women, because both... I mean, I'm assuming you like to get into a clean bed. I'm assuming that you like food in your fridge. I'm assuming that you wash your clothes. So if you do all of that, and you're in a partnership, it should be 50-50. And actually, I think things are changing now, because men are doing shared parental leave, and all sorts of things are shifting. So, yeah.
But as a man, do you think there's a sense that men can be quite good at allowing control to be taken off them so they can relinquish responsibility a little bit and kind of go, do you know what, I'm quite happy for my partner to take control of that, and I'll just sit here and just tell me what you need me to do and when you need me to do it, and I'm happy to do it. And taking that back seat becomes easier and easier the more they like to take over.
Do you know what? I actually don't think it's about gender. I think it's about personality types across the board. And people who micromanage are often their own worst enemy, because when you micromanage somebody, you create a cycle.
I think you're right.
What happens is the subject becomes apathetic and they say, well, I'm going to get it wrong. I'm just going to follow this to the letter. I'm not going to do anything. I'm paralysed by fear of getting it wrong. So I just become weak and useless. And so these people who micromanage are often their own worst enemies.
So Anna, do you think you've created a monster of your...
A lazy monster? No, definitely not. And it's so mundane doing this stuff. And I think there's a lot of men in Britain who should be called Ron, and in front of that should be later, because all they say is later on. Will you ask them to do anything?
What happens if you just don't do any of the stuff that you feel like you're doing too much of, and you're writing a list for your husband to do? But how long would it take for the whole household to just crumble into dust?
Well, how long? I mean, if you didn't empty the bin, how long would it take to fill up the kitchen floor?
How long would it take for your husband to realise the bin needs emptying without you telling him?
But then it doesn't take two people to worry about the same things in a marriage or a partnership. So I run the house and he cooperates fully, thank goodness.
But if the bin is overflowing, surely there's a point at which he realises that no one else is going to take the bin out unless he takes the bin out.
Yeah, but that's sort of one-upmanship. How far do you go? Dirty underwear and no food in the fridge, no milk for the coffee. You know, it's dangerous, isn't it? That's a dangerous tactic, and it causes arguments. Whereas a list reduces any need for an argument and even a discussion about it.
Who's it dangerous for? Is it dangerous for you because you'd feel uncomfortable, or is it dangerous because it gets unhealthy? I don't.
Well, it's dangerous because cockroaches have become.
Yeah. But do you really think it would get that bad?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're totally unengaged from housework and won't do it unless you're invited to do it,
But I just wonder
good.
whether he's got into the habit of just being told all the time.
Well, I
Whereas
write it
if-
down and he does it. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
but
a
whereas
great
if you
idea.
didn't write it down, maybe
you
he
got-
might just do
I
it.
Peter, have you got any
Never
friends that Anna's describing? Do you see that in some of your male friends that sort of got into relationships where they've let their partner take over?
Yeah, and I always tell them off because I think nobody should ever be under the thumb. But I also know...
Unless they've let themselves. This is what I wonder about, whether people, you know, and as you say, it may not be about gender, but whether you've just sort of allowed yourself to get into the position where you don't take initiative, you just wait to be told. Because that's what the head teacher's saying, is we're infantilising partners by telling them all the time, which doesn't allow them to develop their own responsibility. I suppose I'm sort of, you know, I mean, as people know, I have 3 boys and I'm raising them, and I'm also wondering about, you know, maybe I should do a little bit less and let them step up a little bit more. So when they see the bin overflowing, they realise they've got to take it out.
My husband was really sad. His father died young, and he's got a sister and a mother, and it was in the days before remote controls, and he would say, can someone turn the TV up for me? And someone would, his mother or his sister would turn the fire up. Yeah, so it's a different, the generations now definitely are different.
Although I'm not so sure, because I know a few older gentlemen who are now single-parent fathers, and they operate flawlessly without the presence of a woman. You know, they juggle children and work and their personal lives, and they absolutely ace it.
Daniela Jean says on Facebook, if they didn't act like children, we wouldn't feel the need to do that for them. I have to remind my husband of an appointment a week before, the day before, then he will still forget on the day.
He'll often say, can you write down to remind me, Derek will say. And I'm like, well, that means I've now got the pain and responsibility of reminding.
Just share responsibility.
Can you
say no?
Sharon says,
Is this why I'm single?
I left a to-do list for my husband once. I couldn't understand when he got really cross and tore it up. I thought he totally overacted. We're divorced now because of his unreasonable behaviour. That bodes well. You see, there's the tail in there.
One more thing, that head teacher, her students are paying 18k a year, or the parents are, to be in that school, and I don't think they're probably going to be doing their own housework in the long or short term, to be quite honest.
Do you know what?
And is it her remit to be talking about this?
Give me 18 grand a year, I'll tell them to do that. Right?
Yeah, brilliant.
Go around and do it.
Great to see you both. Thanks very much indeed. Do you get in touch this morning? Who's in charge in your house?
Have you written a list this morning?
Yeah.
What was on it?
Guilty. Derek's sitting there thinking, I'm doing everything this morning. And she's banging on about me.
Derek's just looked at the list
Well
and
done, darling. Well
granny
done.
pasta.
Well done.
I've got to get the granny pasta sorted. Derek, get the granny pasta.
We will make America great again.